So welcome back to the channel. In this episode we thought we'd give you a bit of a brief overview of us taking Jags racing for the weekend. So we're up at Brands. Qualifying. It's not raining yet, it's dry, so I don't know if it's going to rain later though, but we'll see. So they're not on a shared grid, so it looks like it's 20 Jags. So hopefully with a dry session we can actually see what the car's capable of, because it's been pretty much wet every time we've had it out. At Silverstone we had a dry session, but we didn't have the dampers where we wanted them. You're gonna get run over, mate. So yeah, it's a case of just getting out there, seeing what we can do. We've got loads of data around Brands, loads of lap times, so we know what the cars are capable. So I think at the end of qualifying we'll have a good idea of how quick the XK actually is. Yeah, so stayed dry the whole session. To be fair, I think it was 5th he ended up in. Lap time wise, he's about 1.2 off of pole. So actually really happy with that, because it's, like I said, the first proper session in the dry, and his last lap was the quickest he'd done out of the whole session, so that was a 56.1. So I think with some damper tweaks we can potentially find a little bit here and there. As he's getting confident as well, that's going to help. If there's loads of oversteer, then we need to deal with that. But if there's loads of understeer, we need more oversteer. Okay. All right. Well, we'll play with the rear damper setup then. But I can stiffen the front, but we don't want to counteract it and drive past the corner, then turn in. So you need to get that drive out clearways and get over. Like, you look at the difference with Damien. He's running a pit wall and he's mile an hour quicker up the straight. We'll look at the data in a minute. Yeah, so he's just rolling the front arches because the wing was catching on the tyre on the near side. So we're going to do both sides, but we managed to borrow an arch roller. I've never seen that in a set of race spares before. No. So qualifying went well. We're just checking over the cars now. Both Damien's, Andrew's and Joe's are all good. They're actually pretty happy with the setup, so we're not making any changes to those cars. Andrew was saying that the rear end felt twitchy, but I've checked through it and we're just going to maybe make one small change. We're just waiting for him to make a decision on it. Jack's car, obviously, as I kept saying, we haven't had it in the dry, so we've looked over his in-car, looked at the track data and stuff, and we are going to do a little bit of work. We're going to make some changes to the rear damper rate, very slightly on rebound, and we're going to change the low speed on the front, just to try and get a little bit more response from the front. He's complaining of a little bit of oversteer on the rear, so on to race one. So debrief after race one. We had a dry race. Jack had a bit of a nightmare start, to be fair, and unfortunately hooked reverse rather than first, so we got away pretty lightly because he came back about 5 foot, released the clutch and then went to first. So he dropped back to, I think it's about 10th, but he had an absolute blinder and made it back up to 5th. He's reeling in Tom Lenthal. Each lap just sort of taking 200 of a second out of him each time, reeling it in, but just didn't quite have enough. Unfortunately had a bit of an off onto the gravel, which dropped him back, but he then made the gap. So the changes we made earlier were absolutely mega, so we're really happy with that. She got picked up on scrutineering for having 30mm spacers, which in the blue book the maximum width is 25. So it's something that we actually missed. So we had a mad panic after the race because we had to take the wheels off, take the spacers, I'm sure Ollie's got a few clips of those, but we run them over to a local machinist and managed to just get him to bang them in his lathe and turn them down 5mm. We then got the car back approved again, so we've got those fitted on. We're holding fire to do any changes to the car because looking at the weather tomorrow, it's about 80% chance of rain. So we know we've got a good wet setup for this car, but fingers crossed we don't have to use it. Damien had an absolutely brilliant race. He ended up 9th overall. It's his first weekend on the Nankang, so he's moved over to a different tyre. He says it's massively improved that car, so that's good to know. And we also replaced the clutch because he had the issue last time. So we've gone over to one of our lightweight clutches, which he's really happy with. And the same with Andrew. He had an absolute blinder. He didn't qualify very well, started at the back, and he made it all the way up to 10th. It was probably one of the best races I've seen him driving, so it was good. Joe also is only on his second race. He managed to get below the 1 minute mark, which is absolutely brilliant news.
Morning, mate.
Ah, bonsoir, comment ça va, monsieur?
What's on?
Just having a little nap. Betting when to come out because it's wet.
So race 2, Sunday, we had a fair bit of rain last night and it's been pretty much raining all morning, so we changed the cars over to a wet setup, softened the rear dampers down. Some of the guys with the saloons, we've removed the rear roll bars, just try and get as much grip as possible. So as we've sort of kept going on about, we've got quite a good wet setup for Jack's car, so we put that on. So yeah, well, he's starting from 3rd because of the disqualifications yesterday. So I think he's got a good chance to stay at the front in the wet. We were a little bit off the pace in the dry, so yeah, I think today should be good. And obviously Andrew and Damien and Joe as well will move forward at the same time. So yeah, we'll see what we can do.
It's sideways as well, but he does get himself away first. Clearly ahead of Tom Lenton as they go into paddock for the first time. Now, will they all get safely through there? This is almost a bit of a pinch point.
One of the XJ, the light Seaboard is already gaining position. The Jaguar gets quite elongated.
It was kind of Spectator's curse there, wasn't it? Because I was saying when he was going into
Going now, and that is the car that was driven by Jack Robinson, one of the later morning. It looks like he's actually gained quite a few positions now. Caught by Mike Seaboard, who started the lap about 6 seconds away from them up front before we caught the traffic. Colin Field.
So as you can see, race 2 didn't go to plan with Jack's car. Annoyingly had a spin on, I think it was lap 1, made it up to 2nd, went round, came back through the pack from the back, and then we had the chance of, well, it was a safety car, bunched the cars up, and I believe Jack was in about 7th at this point, so he had a good shot of catching the top 3, especially on the safety car. And then unfortunately, I think just where obviously had a few cool down laps, the tyres dropped off and he just went straight in at paddock, and as you can see, it picked up the wall. So we're going to get the cars loaded up now, and then back at the unit we'll do a bit of a debrief for this and all the other cars because we're in a bit of a rush to get these locked and loaded today. So we're now back at Swallows from Brands. As you can see, we've got the car in the workshops. We're going to give it a clean down, get it on the ramp, give it a full inspection, and then we can properly assess the damage and see what we've got to do. We've had a bit of a nose underneath it roughly. It looks like none of the suspension's damaged, which was our main concern. It does look like it's predominantly just panel damage, so we're obviously definitely going to have to replace the front bumper, wing and door. The rear quarter on the car is going to be repaired. We've got Brad from BLS who does all of our paintwork coming down today to have a look at that once we've cleaned it, and we can see if we can get that repaired at the same time. So I think the next episode will show the progress and show the step by step what we're doing to the car to get it back to race ready. We've got Thruxton in a couple of weeks, which is going to be the target, but I'm not sure if it's going to be achievable currently until we know exactly what's going on with all the panel damage. So we'll crack on now, and we'll see you in the next episode.